There's a interesting view on children as like less than.
Yeah, but they know way more than us.
I know, and they're so much less tainted by like what the world
what
is.
they're supposed to be.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you think about kids as little adults or
Right.
as adults as big kids.
Yeah.
You get to see a lot clearer picture of who people are.
Or like when you think of kids as just like souls that came here that already know everything, and then what we're going to do as adults is like completely obliterate everything they know with all of our like expectations and like societal pressures, and then they forget it all, and then whole life is about remembering what they knew when they came. So
Yeah, it's funny. I have this mantra.
no pressure.
No pressure. just remember your oneness.
Right.
I have this mantra that came to me at one point, and I use these to check back in, like just a little phrase that resonates that you like feel inside you.
Yeah.
And it was remember who you are,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, oh yeah, that really that one sticks with me.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it
That's
came from the
Lion King, right?
I was like, fucking Rafiki.
Come on.
Rafiki was the best. I need
Rafiki
I wish if there was a shaman named Rafiki,
I'd be like,
I would follow.
done.
Okay, that's my guru.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he
Rafiki,
needs a staff.
Rafiki.
Maybe
Yeah.
like hit you with a stick.
Yeah.
Remember
who you are. You know who else is like a super sage character from all those kids movies? The grandmother from Moana.
I haven't seen Moana.
Well, you should watch it just to like study the grandmother.
Well, so one of the things I do on this, like, I consider the Realness like as a podcast feed. So
Yeah.
it's not like there's the Realness
Yeah.
podcast, which is this
Yeah.
what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
And then I do these Design Your Life episodes.
Yeah.
And one thing we've done twice now. One was about threesomes, and one was about the book Free Will by Sam Harris, and it's the Realness Rundown.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is do them around Disney movies. Because if you look at the
Yes.
archetypes, if you like really break down a Disney movie,
Yeah.
the archetypal symmetry there is really
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh, yeah.
And one of the best things about Disney movies is that everyone knows them.
Right.
Like we talk about like Jordan Peterson does a great job about this. Talks about Pinocchio and Aladdin, and it's you're like, wow, like that makes more sense because now it's conceptualized and something
Right.
that I really understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they do such a good job of
Easy.
that.
Yeah.
Even though Walt Disney was kind of a crazy person.
Right.
So is Steve Jobs.
Right,
Whatever.
yeah.
We got Lion King and iPhones.
Yeah,
From
totally.
these sociopaths.
Right. But yeah, Moana. It's a good one.
It's going. The Rock
good
did a
one.
good job.
Fantastic.
Anything
yeah.
The Rock does, I'm like, I gotta check this out. There's
Right.
that movie, the new one that came out with the buildings are burning. He's like sliding down this thing,
Oh, of
and
course. Yeah.
I'm probably gonna watch it just
Right.
because The Rock.
Probably. Probably can't help it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you, aside from watching Disney movies and
Watch a lot of
trying
them.
to help your kids,
Right.
not let your kids forget who they are.
Right.
Do some wellness coaching and some
I do.
some life coaching.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about the term life coach? Do you feel some type of way about it?
Yeah. I feel like the term life coach, depending on who's reading it, can pick it up as like some salesy, like selling this idea that you're not good enough yet, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to bring you there and I'm going to take you there and like, I'm going to put my methods on you. And that's not what I do, but I think the term life coaching, when it is, or a life coach, when doing their job properly, is all about helping you remember who you are.
Yeah.
It's like pulling out the best parts of you that are so there already, and it's helping you to kind of release those mental blocks, release those, habitual behaviors that just kind of keep you in that cycle. And so, I think there's many different forms and fashions of life coaches. But I kind of, position myself as more of like a spiritual mentor, spiritual life coach, and kind of the holistic, like wellness, well-being, spirituality.
Yeah.
So yeah. But life coach,
It's funny because
Yeah.
I think I was a coach, like a CrossFit coach, right, for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I remember whenever I started doing like what I call lifestyle design work,
Yeah.
I just couldn't find myself like putting that coach title
Yeah.
on it because I'd been a coach for so
Yeah,
long, and
right.
to me, I had kind of patterned coaching as me having answers that you didn't have.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, yeah, if you want to come like
Right.
learn how
Like,
to, clean
I'm
and
the
jerk
authority.
more, it's like, well, yeah, I know how to do that more than you.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
Because I know things you don't know.
Right.
In that world.
Yeah.
But when it came to something else, like, how do
you
I
describe
what I do? It was like, I think that you have all the answers.
Yeah.
But I think that you may need a different perspective.
Yeah. It's a perspective shift.
Exactly.
Which is a miracle. Yeah.
Exactly, because you get caught up in these patterns.
Yeah.
And everybody does. And we all do.
Yeah.
And I'm not better than. It's just we're all out here just doing the best we can and bouncing off of each other.
Yes, bouncing. And I was having a conversation with some new friends at dinner last night. And
love new friends.
And they were asking me to kind of elaborate on what I do. And one of the biggest things that I do is simply listen.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah, I know. So cool.
Profound.
But it's really, when you think about it, like, when's the last time that you are able to just speak what's on your mind, get it all out, tell your life story to somebody who's simply listening to absorb what you have to say and not judging and not worried about how long you're taking or, just, we don't get that. We don't get to do that a lot, you know? Just like speak and be heard and not worry about what the other person's going to like do with it, you know?
Exactly. So, well, the other person doesn't have an agenda aside from helping you.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny. I see that so much where, and I even explained this in the first intro calls. I'm like, listen, the thing about it is the best thing that I can offer you, like I have resources and I have some tools and some practices that we can implement and that's all going to work.
Yeah.
But the best thing that you'll get out of this is a place to just say your piece, judgment free. Because I don't have a dog in the fight aside from you feeling better and living a more full life.
Yes. Yeah. Like I want you to be happy.
Yeah. And if somebody can hear you and see you and you can feel seen and sometimes just saying the thing, just get it out of your mouth, you'll be like, oh wow, that resonates with me, or that's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And we're all full of shit a little bit. So it's like, wow, okay, that actually doesn't make sense.
But
if you can come with yourself in that way and be seen and without judgment, then you can take criticism a lot easier. You're not defending your identity anymore.
Right. Yeah. You're just speaking. You're just speaking a truth and hoping for a perspective shift.
Yeah. The word truth trips me out.
Yeah.
Actually, the podcast that came out right before this yours will come out is just a breakdown of how overused the word truth is and how it kind of gives us permission a lot of times. If somebody ascribes something as being true, it kind of takes away the boundaries of criticism. It's like, no, it's true. So it's what's happening.
It's true. So I can be a jerk.
It's like the world's about love, so I can fuck whoever I want. I'm like, what? That is it.
Wait a second.
Where'd you draw that parallel? I think there's a little bit more to it than that. A little bit more nuanced than. All right, well, I guess whatever. That's what you say.
That was floats your boat. Then okie dokie.
So what are the most common things that you see that when people come to you, right? I'm sure I attract a different style of person than you do.
So a lot of what I work with and help to deconstruct is perfectionism.
Ooh.
And pressure to fulfill these expectations that don't even align with my clients. They don't feel drawn to this picture that they're trying to live up to. And so, to be perfect on this path that they don't even want to be on, it just feels ugh. But then also, another thing that comes up a lot is just the fear of being rejected. So why even start? Why start with change? Why start on this new path? Why listen to my soul? If I'm just gonna look stupid and foolish and I'm never gonna be good enough and people are just gonna look at me like I'm stupid for trying, so that, just that fear of not knowing enough or not being smart enough or not having enough credentialing or, not having enough money, not being pretty enough, not being skinny enough, just that whole not enough not enough of whatever they think is the ideal version of what they need to be. So it's, really kind of getting into the muck and to the subconscious and recognizing where those stories came from. Well, why do you think that you have to be the expert just to start, or why do you think you have to be, I don't know, skinny to do something, like let's examine where those stories came from.
So you kind of track down the origin of the story.
Yes. So I'm also a certified functional medicine health coach, and I'm guessing your listeners probably have a little bit of help me out with that.
Familiarity?
Yes, there you go.
They are familiar with.
Yes, with functional medicine, which is, root cause medicine. It's getting to the root of things.
And that's kind of that is the intention of functional medicine, is to track down the actual cause versus treating symptoms.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And so I do that with mental and emotional as well.
Okay.
So I've always been attracted my whole life to finding, to knowing like the root cause of everything. It's just something about me.
Addicted to asking why.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was a kid, I had these like ridges in my thumbnails, just kind of like little indentations.
Yeah.
And I just like wanted to know why they were there. like I just wouldn't take like, oh, just because they're there, for an answer. And sorry to let you down. I never found out why, but
wow.
I know. but like I feel like that the ridges in the fingernails like started my like quest for the root of knowing everything, or the cause of everything. But
someone's gonna message you and be like, "Hey, it's because of this."
It's because of this.
And you'll finally have the answer.
Right?
You've
like
been searching for all this time.
Thank you. But anyways, so I love exposing the root cause of patterns of self-sabotage, of lack of motivation. And I do that by listening to my clients and listening to their whole life story, and listening to things in childhood and, where stories took root, and seeing how that manifests now into the future and, into the present and the future, and how it manifests as behaviors and, just patterning in your life. So I'm always looking for the root cause. And, whenever you kind of are able to diagnose something, or you recognize the reason why, it becomes less scary, and you kind of know what you're dealing with, So yeah.
Well, it becomes less of a monster in the closet.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you know what you're dealing with. Yeah.
It's like if you think it's a monster in the closet, it turns out it's just like a coat
right.
piled up on the floor. It's like, oh,
yeah.
it's just
well, I can deal with that.
I can just hang that up.
Yeah.
It's not going to eat me.
Yeah.
But until then,
yeah.
it can be so many things.
So many things. If you're my husband, though, you just leave the coat on the floor until your wife picks it up.
Wow. Put him on blast.
Yes.
Wow. So in the work, and you work primarily with women.
I do.
Okay. So what are some of the big, like you said, like the big couple of things that create patterns of limitation?
Yeah. So in the world of self-development and self-actualization, the word trauma is thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
And at some point in our childhood, we separate from our soul, from our true self, through some form of trauma. And when people hear the word trauma, I think what they imagine is a very traumatic event, some sort of, death, some sort of abuse, something violent,
something violent, really depressing. Like it's like
something just
like Lifetime movie, depression.
Yes. And so a lot of us out there have, fortunately, not experienced an event like that. And we go about our lives thinking, well, since I never experienced, this huge trauma, I almost don't deserve to feel like I have completely separated from who I am, because I was never like severed from it, from this like traumatic event.
Yeah.
And in all actuality, trauma can be looked at as an event that's not so violent, but as someone simply saying something that you absorbed so deeply, you allowed it to separate you from the highest version of yourself, and you allowed these fears to just start coming in and these stories to take root. And so, I want to emphasize that, you know, when we separate from who we truly are, when we separate from, kind of the oneness, it doesn't always have to be because of this big, crazy, traumatic event. And so these stories can take root, at an early age. Just having expectations put on you at a young age. As young girls, we're told you can do anything you want, and you're beautiful, and you're a good girl, and all you have to do is make good grades, and whatever. And so we pick up these stories and we let them control our entire lives, and men too, but we let them control our entire lives, and we're almost blind to it. So, a lot of what I see and a lot of what I work with are women who have just allowed the same story of them not being good enough and not living up to the expectations that were just put on them, and then just thinking that their worth is lower than it truly is. So yeah, it's just this patterning of, I'm not good enough, so I'm going to prove to myself on a subconscious level that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to self-sabotage. I'm going to set these unrealistic goals, and then I'm not going to know how to get there. And then I'm just going to say, see, I told you I'm not good enough. Like, I can't do it, and it's just this patterning that happens, not because of some crazy, horrible event, but just because of a story that seeped in at a young age that we've allowed to control us, and on a subconscious level. We just invite it in. We invite it in to prove to ourselves, as fucked up as that sounds, we want to prove to ourselves the truth that we think.
Exactly.
And
100%.
To make our world make sense.
It makes our world make sense. That's so well said. One thing I want to jump back into there was when you said trauma is a separation from ourselves, or the origin of the separation of ourselves. And I think for young women in particular, it's like trauma can be comparing yourself to Britney Spears and Mandy Moore.
Yeah.
And creating an idea of what a woman is.
Did you say Mandy Moore?
Yeah.
Gosh, I haven't heard her name in a...
I was really into Mandy Moore when I was like 14. And we share the same last name, so it was even more.
Oh my God. Yeah.
No, but you're comparing yourself to, in an unrealistic way, to something that's completely manufactured,
right.
and creating an idea around who you're supposed to be that is that.
Yeah.
And that's your first that's most likely not going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
And even if it does, it wouldn't be what you thought it was going to be anyway.
And it still wouldn't be Mandy Moore. You'd be you. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's that big separation from yourself, and in the subtle trauma, maybe even trauma may not even be the best word, because it has that connotation. Like the dissonance begins between your soul and who you're bringing to the world.
Yeah.
And from there, it's like ships parting 1 degree at a time.
Yeah. And all these stories
all
and expectations and like ideals and just all this separates the two ships further and further and further.
Yeah. And do you see, I mean, there was so much good in that, like, damn, but do you see in women in particular that there's, when aging starts to happen, or when life starts to change, which inevitably happens, you have kids, you do the thing, like your role changes. And I think that's one thing that we don't appreciate enough about women and their role in the world, is how adaptable they are to different situations. Like a young professional woman and a mother are two completely different lifestyles, and can be, and there's a lot of shifting and changing and a lot of identity challenging in environments that you have to put yourself in. Do you see a lot of existential crisis through those shifts? Because that has to be,
because
I mean, as a male, you can basically be the same person.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're a dad, like
if you're a dad and the mom leaves, you're babysitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, but even in the career wise, like you're kind of doing, you're in sales, you're in whatever, you're in marketing. It's like you're kind of playing a similar role forever.
Yeah.
Or you have the option to, but I think women a lot of times don't have the opportunity or the options to not have to shift identities drastically.
Yes, which pisses me off because
glad you're being honest.
Yeah, you're welcome. Because we feel like certain words, like mom, like working mom, like single mom or like take away the mom and just professional woman. We accept that these words have certain characteristics that if we don't prescribe to, then we're going to be rejected.
Yeah.
And so if we're a mom, this is how we have to behave. These are the things that we're supposed to worry about. These are the things that we're supposed to say, the things that we're supposed to do, the way that we're supposed to look, and the clothes that we're supposed to wear, all these boxes that we have to check off. And if we don't check those boxes off, then people are going to talk about us and think that we're not good enough.
Yeah.
We're not good enough as a mom because we're not doing XYZ. And then there's the role of wife. And if we're a wife, this is what we do. This is how we change from before we're married to after. These are the changes that you're supposed to prescribe to, and this is how you're supposed to be, and this is how you're supposed to act, and this is what you're supposed to wear, and this is the places that you're supposed to go to, and so, and we accept that, as women, we're like, okay, well, now that I'm a mom, this is what I do, and these are the things that I talk about, and then I have to completely shift when I walk into the office, and if I'm in the corporate world, then I have to prescribe to this idea of being like a badass corporate, like, I hate this term, like boss bitch. I hate that term. I mean, like what's the male equivalent of boss bitch? Like, there's not one. It's just like, I'm the boss.
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
boss.
I'm the
Yeah.
boss, That guys don't have to be like, I'm the boss.
Dude.
Boss
bro.
Boss bro. Yeah. So anyway, okay. So, it's just all of these boxes that we have to tick off to or check off, in order to fulfill this role wholly, wholly with a W. And we allow that, we just say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. And when people break that mold, it's like, whoa, wait, she's a mom and she's not carrying a diaper bag and doesn't have 80 snacks with her, and does she not care about her kids? And she has tattoos. Moms aren't supposed to have tattoos, and she's wearing that, and so sorry, I'm going on a tangent.
This is a very tangential podcast.
Yes.
You're doing exactly what I want you to do right now.
You're controlling me. Okay. So I
manifested your rant.
So I think as women, to have a heightened awareness of, am I doing what I'm doing? Am I saying what I'm saying right now to fulfill the expectation of the role that I'm in? Or am I doing it because it feels good and this is who I am?
Yeah.
And if you feel discord, if you feel mental tension, if you feel like, if you're stressed and overwhelmed and anxious, you're not aligned, And I think there's a difference between stress and overwhelm because work is piling up or there's a lot of stuff to do. But to live in a default mode of stress and overwhelm constantly from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, you're not aligned with who you truly are because you're trying to fulfill all of these expectations of the 20 different roles that you're trying to be at one time. And that's fucking stressful.
Yeah, and women get that. I mean, and I'll say guys do too in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Primarily, there's fewer, but there's a lot of inadequacy there. But it's for whatever reason, when you were saying that, I was thinking about there's a magazine to compare yourself against at every age.
Yes.
17 magazine to Teen Vogue.
Yes.
To Mother Mag. I don't know.
Right. Mother magazine.
Whatever. Martha Stewart Daily Living. It's all these things.
Southern Living.
Yeah. And it's exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
oh, let me open this and find out how I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Exactly. My kitchen's supposed to look like this. And I'm going to do this. I mean, and marketing and commercialization are geared to continue. That's based upon the idea of not enoughness. Right?
Yeah.
And one thing, we live in Austin, so we live in a bubble. I don't know what your community is like, but you can be a mom here and have tattoos, and people it doesn't.
Right. Cool.
You're shopping at Whole Foods downtown.
Right.
No one's your kids can have
Where
mohawks.
Are your
and
tattoos?
It's why don't you have tattoos, weirdo?
Right.
But if you go if you go to where I'm from, Graham, Texas,
Yeah.
and small 9,000 people in the middle of fucking nowhere, you do get a taste of that. And I think a lot of people that listen to this show are kind of what I call it geographically fucked. You're kind of stuck in this place where it's I've got to be this certain type of way because not only is the idea that you may be judged by other people,
Uh-huh.
uh, in your head, it's a
Hmm.
reality.
Yeah.
Like people outside, they are doing that because that's how people have been like they
Yeah.
think that people are doing it to them, so they do it to other people, and it
Right.
becomes this cycle
A
of
cycle of
really like
judgment. Yeah.
belittling judgment,
Yeah.
and it's really wild. It's really
Mm-hmm.
wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's also really cool to wake up
Yeah.
and,
Well, it's Alan Watts talks about this, and I actually I just finished a book by Shogum Trungpa as well.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Alan Watts talks about his hide and seek,
Mm-hmm.
and Shogum says touch and go. But
Yeah.
it's like finding yourself. You have these
Yeah.
moments of you don't ever like live like this is a period
No.
of like complete alignment.
Yeah.
I don't care who you
Yeah.
are, like it doesn't exist
Right.
necessarily. Like
No,
maybe
no.
some
And then we
sages and
fall
people
out
out
like
there, but it's like
Jesus maybe, but
yeah,
yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the idea of the archetype, yeah,
Right.
but the real
Yeah.
person you
The real
don't know,
person.
right?
No. Yeah.
It's this this like touch and go or hide and seek of like, oh,
Yeah.
I found it, cool. Now I remember what that's like, and
Yeah.
then now I have to you kind of lose it again and
Yeah.
get, and then you kind of find it again,
So
and through every journey back to yourself,
back to
you
yourself.
take new tools, new
Right.
lessons,
New tools and like
new
and just heightening
understandings.
your awareness like, oh, that just
Exactly.
happened.
Yeah.
So, funny story about me kind of like falling out of alignment. I used to have this, well, and I still do sometimes, this like fear of rejection, fear of not being liked,
Yeah.
and like wanting to please so that I'm accepted. And luckily I've been able to shift away from that, but of course I still find myself back in it every once in a while. And here's an example of how ridiculous the the wanting to be liked and the fear of rejection like kind of seeped into my life not too long ago. I was driving downtown. I was on like South Lamar or whatever, and I was in traffic,
Hmm.
and there was like this cute little like Mini Cooper behind me, like cute colors, and I was like, oh, that person's cool. I like their car, and I was like, oh crap, I'm in the wrong lane, and so like I had to like fight my way because Austin traffic, you have
Yeah.
to like fight your way.
Yeah.
As nice as the people are here, they're not nice drivers. So
Yeah.
anyway, was weaving in traffic and got in front of this cute little Mini Cooper after they had it was like kind of an ordeal that they let me in, and I was driving along and then I was like, oh my god, it's not where I want to go. Like I need to be back in the lane that I was in before, and this is so stupid. I can't believe I'm even going to admit this. Instead of getting back into the lane that I wanted to get in so that I could go where I was going, I was like, I'm just going to stay here in this lane so that they like me and they don't get mad at me because they let me in. And that was really nice of them. So I just have to stay in this lane. So I stayed in the fucking lane and I like added like 20 minutes onto my trip so I could just like appease them and not get in the other lane. And then I was like, caught myself like, what the shit are you doing? Like, you didn't change lanes so this person that you're never going to see again in the cute car would like not dislike you,
Yeah.
and like thinking that they would dislike me for changing lanes. Like, what the fuck? So, but I had the emotional hygiene and the awareness to recognize the cycle that I was falling into or that I had fell into
Yeah.
and where it was stemming from, and like instead of being all stressed out, and I mean I was stressed out in the moment, but I just have the awareness now, like I did that because of this deep rooted story within me that still feels like I have to be liked or I can't be disliked.
Yeah.
And so I think it's finding those patterns whenever you're like in your daily life and you do stupid shit like that,
Yeah.
like, why did I do that? And then exploring, why did I do that? Why did I do that? And, going down that rabbit hole, those are the clues that allow us to uncover the stories that are driving our life,
Yeah.
So whenever you're going about your daily life and you find that you're like doing something that just doesn't add up, but you're doing it to like please somebody or fulfill a picture or something,
Yeah.
it's taking stock of those moments and saying, why did I do that? But not stopping there. Why did I do that? And then continuing the whys
Yeah.
back to the root cause, like, why did I do that?
So,
Yeah.
so that's funny that you say that because that was just super, it's a super clear analogy, right? You
Yeah.
like changed things, you
Yeah.
committed to something, and then you like didn't want to be
Yeah.
disliked, so you didn't change
Yeah.
back. One thing I have people do is look at like where else in your life is that
Mhm.
same thing
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, like for you, like have you where are some places outside of in
Yeah.
traffic where
Yes.
that
Yes.
same behavior? Because like I do believe like how you do anything is how you do everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So there's that it's elsewhere, right? If you're like
Yes.
if you're procrastinating here, then you're probably that stems out
Yeah.
in many different
Yeah,
ways.
for
And I think
sure.
when you understand how much it affects you, those little small things, how much they affect the big
Yes.
picture of your life, it makes it a
Yes.
lot more. It adds a sense of urgency,
Yes.
right?
So, yeah, when I first decided to kind of step out into this career path,
Yeah.
I started out with a blog, like not monetizing it, just wanted to like talk about stuff. And the thing that I get really psyched about talking about is stuff like this, like spirituality and the universe and universal principles and like, consciousness and all that kind of stuff, that realm. And, where the words universe, God, love, where, those can be used interchangeably. But I talked about hair and makeup instead.
We have great hair.
Thanks. Um, because I was scared that if I talked about things like God and spirituality and the universe and, all of those really, what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial? Not,
Esoteric.
yeah, well, and where people have a lot of opinions,
Oh yeah.
and they are ready to defend those opinions. So there's a lot of hot buttons over there, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, if I talk about what I really, really love and what I really, really want to talk about, people might not like me because I might piss some people off. And so instead, I'm going to talk about hair and how to do a great cat eye with some liquid eyeliner, which is fun.
Which is important. It's
Which
really
is
important.
very important. But so, this fear of rejection, this fear of not being liked, even permeated what I was going to talk about and how I was going to show up in the world and, how I was going to shape the trajectory of my career,
Yeah.
because I could have ended up being a YouTube makeup vlogger, which those are great.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
They're important.
I know they help a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I don't get like psyched talking about that.
Yeah.
And so I muted myself. I muted what I really wanted to talk about for fear of not being liked.
Yeah.
And I think that's a like really big thing. And I think women, I can only speak from experience. I've never been a man, but well, not in this life. I haven't been a man before. But like, we mute ourselves a lot for fear of saying something that somebody's not going to like. So let's just talk about the vanilla stuff because that's safe and, it's not the hot button subjects. And even though the hot button subjects are what like, I'm stoked about talking about.
Yeah.
So yes, that's an example.
Yeah, I feel like women mute themselves a lot, and I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing and not doing as much eyeliner tutorials.
Thanks.
Even
I'm
though
not even wearing eyeliner today.
I mean, it is 8 o'clock in the morning. You came over here in full makeup and be like, "What happened?"
Oh, hey, I'm
You're in like
Kardashian.
a lightning bolt, which is actually dope. I need to find one of those. But yeah, no, there's a lot to be said about that, and I would like to track down, and we'll get back to some practical stuff later, but I like going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
When women mute themselves for the fear of not being liked, that's to me at this point, like I see it so clearly when I see it, and it's either it's funny, and this is maybe a judgment on my end, and I'm kind of surprised I'm actually even saying this because Anyways, but I'll notice this, and being single especially, that I'm out, and I'm actually there's either women that are very outspoken and opinionated, from a rational place, which
Yeah.
is sometimes a little bit much,
Yeah.
hard to find. It's like I'm like I mean, but that's also like the beauty of the feminine, right?
Yeah.
Is that it kind of can get a little out there, and
Yeah.
it's fun. It's
Yeah.
almost like I need to be pushed in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if someone's not saying what they want to say, but you know that there's something there.
You know that
Like
there's
that's
something
almost
way
more
deeper.
attractive to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Like what's underneath all that?
Right.
Like where's that at? And
Yeah.
can I create a space for that to come? Like, I'm now just intrigued.
Yeah.
Versus sometimes you see people and they think that they're doing them, but it feels different, and
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a judgmental way. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, you just haven't.
Right.
It's been so long since you found.
Yeah.
Since you played this game of hide and seek,
Yeah.
like you've been hiding so long
That you don't even
haven't
know.
you're not even geared up. You don't even know what seeking is a thing.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
it's just you're just wandering now.
And a lot of days now you hear like she's not being authentic, or she's being inauthentic, and she's not being her, or he's not being true self, or this whole idea around authenticity. And yes, authenticity is beautiful and it's amazing and it's so powerful to experience being authentic. But I think so many people don't even know who their authentic self is. And so it's almost like they're not being inauthentic because they want to be. It's because they don't even know what or who their authentic self is, because they've been it's so buried. It's so buried, and they just allowed, like, okay, well, let's go back to the Mandy Moore analogy. Like, this is how I'm supposed to be, and so I'm going to spend decades on this track, and then they just, we forget who our authentic selves is. So it's it's hard to say, like, well, she's being inauthentic, but it's like, help me put this into words. There's a difference between intentionally being inauthentic and trying to be something else, and then just being so lost and not even knowing who you are, that you're just, okay, well, this looks good, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah, and I think that's the majority.
Yeah.
I think there's very few people that are consciously
fake
or
right,
like being manipulative. It's like they've been patterned in that way because of whatever environment they probably grew up in, and to bring it back around to this like subtle trauma, or like it's like this idea that like you just compared yourself against something, and you've done that so many times that becomes a way of being. And people lose track of authenticity being a process.
Yes.
And
you discovering your authenticity.
Exactly. And that's why books like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck are so popular, because it gives people permission. And that's the work that I do. A lot of times I say, I'm just giving you permission to just do some weird shit. Because the thing about it is, I think that the boundary between ourselves, our authentic selves, and this kind of diluted version is shame a lot of times. Because if you step outside the boundaries of your current experience, there's some boundaries are usually shame and fear and judgment and
shame, fear, and guilt.
Exactly. And you're in this place of not wanting to step outside, versus if you can take some shame-free action and expand yourself a little bit and be like, oh, wow, I really enjoyed that. And that was something I maybe wouldn't have done before. And
that's the key.
Or I didn't enjoy it, and that's okay too.
And that's okay too.
And I can move, and just don't do that. Now I know.
Yes.
I have more context. And I can then act with more context. Versus being, oh, well, I've lived in this rivet for so long that it's become complacency.
And I think that the big key to discovering your authenticity is simply aligning with what brings you joy. And more and more and more of that. So, like, for example, when you reached out to me about coming and being a guest on your podcast, it's like, fuck yes, yay! Like, I love this kind of stuff, Whereas, like, someone else, had they been approached, by someone to be a guest on a podcast, they'd be like, oh my God, like, that sounds like the worst thing ever, And it's just finding these things that when the opportunity or the idea, like, presents itself to you, either internally or, brought to you as an external opportunity, and you get super excited about it, and for no particular reason except that, oh my God, that excites me. That is, aligning on the path of your authentic self, and joy is the key. you know?
And you have to be able to feel.
Yeah.
This is where it gets funny. Is like
Yeah.
if you're not conditioned to feel what that feels like.
Right. Yeah.
If you haven't set an intention or
Uh-huh.
created an environment where you can feel what your
Yeah.
feelings are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which this is, I think, comes more around the men,
The dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The boss dude,
Yeah.
boss bros.
Boss bro.
Then you don't have, again, you're still lacking context because you don't have
Right.
the feedback.
Yeah.
Right. You
Yeah.
don't have the feedback of there's the thing, and this is something I had this conversation on maybe in the Facebook community recently, but it's talking about following your gut, following
Yeah.
your intuition, and when
Uh-huh.
that's important. I'm like,
Yeah.
you get intuition through experience. Like you have
Right.
gut feelings about
Yeah.
something or something feels off, but you
Uh-huh.
don't know what that is
Right.
until it completely fucking explodes.
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
like, holy shit, that's what that feeling was telling me?
Right,
Wow.
like, oh,
Now I
man,
know.
I've
When
been
that,
ignoring
when that
that,
feeling
yeah.
comes up again, you're like, oh, I need to I
Right.
maybe need to listen this
Okay,
time.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you have to have a little compassion for yourself,
Yeah.
or a lot of compassion for yourself, and be
Yes.
like, I didn't know what that feeling was.
I didn't know what that feeling was.
I just
and-
thought it was, indigestion.
Right, yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like, but then you're like, okay, well now I can listen to my
Yeah.
gut because I know the language it's speaking.
Yeah, yeah, the language, yeah,
Versus
and the language
like,
is feeling.
I don't know. I just felt like I can't be like in hindsight. I can be like, yeah, I just felt like my heart was empty in that
Yes.
experience, and I didn't have that language. I didn't have that
Right.
context
Yeah.
then, but I
Yeah.
do now.
Yeah.
And well, that's a tool. That's the
It's a tool.
That's the lacking groundedness, the wandering,
Yeah.
the seeking of yourself, and then you
Mhm.
get back to you, and you're like, oh wow, I can
Yeah.
consolidate these tools, let go of some bullshit,
Yeah.
cut some ties, and then
Right.
go into this next phase of life
Yes.
with a little bit more
Some more
and
tools.
better context on myself, which
Mhm.
is really the cycle of life, as they
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. It's
Involvement. Yeah.
involvement.
Yes.
Is that a word?
I think it is now.
Involvement. What the fuck is that? So, whenever you talk about finding authenticity and
Mhm.
being yourself,
Mhm.
what practices have you seen that have a high impact? And you can be specific or as wild as you want. Like there's so many things. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing. A lot of the people that come to me, it's like, listen, I know I want to live a more full life, and I'm on board.
Mhm.
But if you Google it, you're gonna get like 3,000 Medium
Oh, right.
and BuzzFeed articles of like top 10 ways to be woke.
Top 10. Yes.
It's
Top
like
27.
it's like, okay, well, and then through that, it's like more of a refining of resources and understanding and like what fits you. But
Yes.
what you have to have a pattern or some principles or some practices that you really lean heavy into that have worked for you.
Yeah. So, I really go off of this principle of aligning with joy,
Okay.
like I said earlier, and following the things that bring you unexplainable joy,
Unexplained. I love that.
Like, I can't explain why this makes me so excited, but it does.
Yeah.
Like, I can't explain why sitting down with a group of kids and like picking up rocks and talking about flowers makes me excited, but it does. I can't explain why being on a stage, like in front of a whole bunch of people, talking brings me joy, but it does.
Yeah.
And to go on a little tangent here, I think a lot of us get confused with this brings me joy because it's going to bring me a lot of money, and then I'm going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
That you can explain.
Yeah.
It brings me joy because it's going to bring me money, so that's explainable, right?
Yeah.
But when there's just these things that we can't explain, it's like, okay, that's it's not a man-made construct that we're inviting in.
Yeah.
That brings us joy. It's just this unexplainable, soul-fulfilling joy. But some of the things that I do to capture, when I feel that joy is I feel it in my body, so this kind of like psychosomatic feedback where does it live in my body, and also when I'm totally out of alignment, when I'm anxious and when I'm stressed and when I'm overwhelmed, what does my physical body feel like, and what are the clues? How is my body trying to speak to me to show me, okay, Meg, like you need to not do this, And for me, it's like tightening my hands, tightening my jaw. It's headaches, it's these physical manifestations of like being out of alignment,
Yeah.
acne, stuff like that. So first tool, psychosomatic feedback, really listening to my body and taking note of how I feel physically.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing that I'm a really visual person, and so sometimes I can't put into words how I feel, that's like, I feel anxious, overwhelmed, and like all
Yeah.
these things.
And words don't do it. Just don't do
Words
it.
don't do it.
Yeah.
So what I do is I put a color to it. And
Ah.
like, I'm feeling really green right now, and like
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
my green feeling, like to you, green might mean like super happy and excited, that might be your,
Yeah.
but for me, green is like, oh God,
Well, there's different from like tree green or like
yeah,
luscious green, and
yeah,
then
versus
like
like puke
nauseous
green.
green.
Yeah,
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 like the car,
booger green.
like the cartoon, like the
Yeah,
cartoons when people like get sick and they're like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So, kind of like asking myself, like, well, do I feel this color?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So just kind of all these tools that are like encompassing specific feelings, like, how does my body feel? What color do I sense right now? Um, but and then meditation, I meditate every day, without fail, morning and evening. And for me, meditation is practicing silence
Mm-hmm.
and taking note of the thoughts that cross my mind and
Mm.
just getting curious, like,
Yeah.
why did I think that? Why, again, my obsession with why.
Yeah.
Like, why did that come across my mind? Like, what does that mean? And just like sitting with myself, which is developing my intuition and
Mm-hmm.
really getting to know myself. Um, and writing, I don't like the term journaling. Um, so I free write.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I call it journaling, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really like,
Yeah, I don't know. I
I
just
don't know.
like, I feel like
So
there's
it's
like
probably how
a
I feel about the word coach.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
I
doesn't
don't
really
know,
matter,
for
but for
me,
me,
yeah,
it
for
feels
me, like,
weird.
there's nothing wrong with the word journaling. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
So, I just kind of just start riffing and, writing. But for me, and I don't know how much time we have,
Oh,
but
as much
like,
as you need.
okay, for me, one of the biggest tools of really deeply diving into the subconscious realm and the different, layers of consciousness was plant medicine. So that has played a big impact on my life as far as recognizing just energy and how who I've become,
Mm-hmm.
and how to kind of realign with my truest self, and the stories that I've built up. So plant medicine is a tool that I've used to give me further insight into my consciousness
Yeah.
and my awareness and the stories that I've allowed to seep into my consciousness that have, shaped my patterns and yeah.
So
So
when you say those are all fantastic, by
yeah,
the way,
thank you.
and just because we made it there,
Yeah.
what type of plant medicines have you had the most impact on you?
Yeah, ayahuasca.
So particularly ayahuasca.
Particularly ayahuasca.
And how many
Yes.
ceremonies have you done?
I've done 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one
So
retreats then. So
one
it's okay.
retreat, yeah, and it was life-changing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, here pretty soon I'll be doing 2 more ceremonies and then, who knows. Um, but it was life-changing for me. And I think we throw around the term life-changing a whole lot.
Everything. This podcast is life
It's
changing.
life-changing.
Yeah. The glass of water I
But
just drank was life
it's
changing as well.
life-changing, right?
Everything.
Right. Like,
Everything
it just
is.
changed my existence. But it helped me to understand that there is a different realm of consciousness, a different realm of awareness that I
Mhm.
hadn't even tapped into. And once you're exposed to something, once you're exposed to a completely new perspective, your life has changed
Yeah.
because you know that it's there.
Yeah.
So when you don't know that it's there, you're operating,
Yeah.
without it. And now that I know it's there, my life has changed because even though, like we were saying earlier, as humans, it's impossible to live in a complete state of alignment 100% of the time.
Yep.
Life is about falling off and getting back on and using our tools and having awareness and,
Mhm.
evolving. And ayahuasca helped me to see a deeper level of existence.
Mm.
And
Can you kind of talk us through what, because everybody's ayahuasca experiences are different,
Right.
and
Yeah.
mine are
Yeah.
on this feed somewhere. But what was your experience like? I mean, because you did four and they were
Hmm. Every day.
every day in a row. So I
Yes.
actually kind of like that.
Four
I mean,
days in a row
from
because
my
you are broken down by
yeah, I
the
don't like
last
taking the, and then
one.
in between, I'm like,
Like,
I'm like,
let's get the show on the road.
yeah, let's just keep,
Yeah.
might as well stay
Let's
in
just
it.
keep
Because
it
that's
going.
what they say. Like once you drink the first cup,
It
like,
stays in. Yeah.
well, that yeah, the ceremony doesn't end until it's over, and
No,
then it's
right.
like it goes on forever. They say,
Yeah.
but it's like
Yeah.
really, it's like the longer if you're doing it,
Hmm.
and there is some beauty in doing it over, I would say, like 8 days,
Hmm.
four ceremonies over eight
Yeah.
days. It's just a
Yeah.
different
It's
vibe.
just a
But
different
doing
experience.
four
Yeah.
back to back would be
Yeah.
a lot. And I'm going
Yeah.
down to Rhythmia
Yeah.
in
That's where I did
October.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where you did yours.
Yeah.
So can you kind of walk us through that experience and just
Yes.
give context? They say with ayahuasca, she knows how long she has with you, which is
Yeah.
funny because I
Yes.
had three in a row was the first time I did it.
Yeah.
And you could tell it's like they were all a continuation of each other, but they
Yes.
were all very
But all
different.
very
Yeah.
different. Yeah. Yeah. So my experience, well, before you drink the medicine, you kind of set an intention.
Hmm.
Like, this is what I would like to come out of this. But ayahuasca is going to give you what you need, not necessarily what you want.
Yep.
You know,
Always.
and as a perfectionist in recovery, um, I was wanting my first drink with ayahuasca, my first dance with ayahuasca to be this like crazy, like, seeing the world, like going to, astral planing and like looking down and seeing the whole world. And I experienced almost nothing until the very end, the very closing ceremony. This is like 7 hours in, and I was kind of laying there trying to like force something,
Hmm.
trying to like force a mental image, and just being like, what the fuck, like God, like I'm the broken one, like of course it's not working on me,
Yeah.
and
Was it working?
which is it was working. It was totally work. She knows what she's doing. It's literally the most intelligent tool I've ever used,
Yeah.
utilized. And so the closing ceremony happens on the first night, and part of the ayahuasca experience is purging.
Hmm.
It's releasing old stagnant energy,
Hmm.
releasing the old stories and the wounds. And you can purge several different ways: crying, laughing, yawning, throwing up, or shitting.
Yeah.
Last two is super fun.
Yeah.
So in the closing ceremony, everyone is kind of, come to, and like, we're sitting with the shamans, with the healers, processing, and I'm in the, sitting there with everybody in the closing ceremony, and I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I have to puke right now. And so also something that I was like really, wanting to work on was procrastination. And so I thought it was hilarious that nothing happened, well, quote unquote, nothing
Yeah.
happened for me until the last minute during the closing ceremony. And then I started purging while everyone was quiet, and, everyone was done with the throwing up and the sounds and all that. And then that's when I started. So
Yeah.
not started like journeying, but that's just when I started purging, and I was
Yeah.
like puking into my bucket and was like, of course,
Yeah.
of course, like
Naturally.
waited till the very last minute and then the stuff happens. And so just that first night was super powerful because she
Hmm.
was showing me, when you, Meg, try and take control and you try and force things and you don't trust in the process, that's when shit gets stuck.
Hmm.
That's when shit doesn't happen. And I had that realization in between the two ceremonies.
Yeah.
And so it was working then,
Yeah.
because I was like having these epiphanies, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And so, I can't remember if it was the next night or the next, but one night I spent the whole night just bawling my eyes out. But it was a really unique experience of crying
Hmm.
because I knew that the tears that were being released, I was healing. And
Yeah.
so I had this deep sorrow and this deep gratitude for the process of sorrow and the process of releasing that sorrow all at the same time. And at one moment that night, I went to the shaman and asked for another drink of ayahuasca. And he was like, well, the ceremony's, it's coming to an end soon. If you have a drink now, like, not gonna be the best thing. So how about some rapé, which is a different type of
Yeah.
medicine, and I'll, spend some time healing, working with you. And during that whole time that he was working with me, cleansing my energy, I had this feeling of like wanting to get up and leave because he had spent enough time on me. And I felt like if I stay here longer, it's selfish of me and
Mm.
it's an inconvenience for him. And he's probably thinking, like, why is this chick still here? Like, why isn't she getting up and leaving?
Yeah.
Why am I still working on her? And in that moment, I heard a voice say, you are completely worth all of his time. Like, you're totally worth it. You are worth being loved, for you're not an inconvenience, Megan. You're not an
Yeah.
inconvenience. You wanting and desiring love and healing and attention is not an inconvenience. So that was a big, big moment for me. You're not
You're
an
an inconvenience.
inconvenience.
Yeah. Those little phrases
Those
that
little phrases
stick
that
with you.
stuck,
Yeah.
totally stuck with me. And now to get a little trippy, when I was grabbed the shaman, when I was getting up to say goodbye, I touched him and I saw that we were like made up of a constellation, like just we were both stars, complete stars, and like just we're a constellation. And I was like, oh, that's what it means by the universe is inside. Like we're all like we are the universe. Okay, so another night, which was a really powerful night for me, I was taken to infancy.
Ooh.
And I was like laying in a crib and I was a tiny baby and I started hearing all these whispers, just whispers all around me. And I was like, this is driving me crazy. And I had the realization, as you do when you're, you know, journeying with ayahuasca, it's just these kind of like this knowingness,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, this is all of the whispers of all of the expectations that you absorbed into
Holy
your
shit.
consciousness, that you absorbed. And from that moment, you lived a life of trying to fulfill expectations that were put on you with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
But you absorbed that. That's the message that you took as a tiny baby to say, okay, I hear you, and that's what my life is going to be about, is fulfilling those expectations that I am absorbing as a tiny baby. And that's what my whole life is going to be. It's just making sure that you guys are happy, because I have to be liked,
Yeah.
and that's my life. And I'd done a lot of work before going to Rhythmia, a lot of
Yeah.
self-awareness, a lot of building my spiritual practice. And so in that moment, ayahuasca, asked, do you want to release this? And I was like, well, fuck yeah,
Sure.
Sure, sounds good.
Sounds great to me. Let's do it.
Okie let's do it. And so I all of a sudden sat up at the end of my bed. Because when you're doing ayahuasca, you're laying on a bed.
Yeah.
So it's not like a party.
It's like a mat.
It's
right,
a
on the
mat.
floor?
Or yeah, like a mattress, a mat,
Yeah.
Yeah, not like these like beds,
Yeah.
box springs and all that. No.
Yeah.
And sat up at the front of my mattress and I could see myself. I went on top of myself and was looking down, and I looked like a total junkie. So I was, sitting, hugging my knees, rocking back and forth, itching, like scratching my arms, sweating, like I was having cramps. Like I looked like a junkie going through withdrawals.
Yeah.
Completely.
Wow.
Totally.
Yeah.
Rocking back and forth, and I was like, like I was hurting so bad. And I heard her keep saying, like, do you want to like release this cellular memory, these stories? Do you want to release them? Like, yes, yes, yes. And I kept feeling like I was going to throw up, but I was like, I can't. I don't want to throw up. And I was so attached to these stories. I was scared to let them go.
Wow.
Because it's like,
wow.
yeah, it's, And so finally, I like threw up. And with ayahuasca, they say, you know, like after you purge, ask it what it is. So you're like cultivating a relationship with this energy that you're releasing, sometimes in the form of puke. And
Yeah.
so, you know, look into the bucket and say like, all right, what are you? You know, like tell me what you are. And I just hear this voice like, this is your addiction to pressure. Like you've been addicted to pressure. I was like, okay.
Whoa.
Okay. But it's like, that's where the fucking procrastination and the perfectionism and all that is, this addiction to pressure that like fed me. And you know, like when addicts, you know, they know that their drug of choice isn't good for them, but it feels so good.
Yeah.
And so you engage in the behavior and then you just perpetuate this cycle. And it's like you're scared to let it go because what is my life going to be without it?
Yeah.
Who am I without this?
Yep.
And so I released it. Now, am I like totally pressure free and never putting pressure on myself? Fuck no. But I have the awareness now that when I try to procrastinate or when I try to set unattainable goals, you know, it's because of this addiction to pressure. And I have to ask myself, am I doing this to fulfill that truth or that, you know, falsity? Or, you know, like, why am I doing this? And is it because of that addiction to pressure? So it gave me this like extra awareness that I didn't have before that, man, I'm totally addicted to pressure.
Yeah.
That's where the expectations and the perfectionism, the procrastination, all that's where it stems from, is this addiction to pressure.
Wow.
Yeah. And so finally, leaving out a lot, but you know, so that I don't sound like a complete wackadoodle. But you know, on the last night, the big principle on the last night was showing me my life's true purpose.
Ooh.
And I think, you know, in our society, we get very wrapped up on my purpose has to be, and then insert the name of a job or a role, you know, or something that we as humans have created, right? But our purpose as a soul, because we are souls having a, you know, physical existence, right? Is to fulfill something that is not man-made. So it's not to be a entrepreneur or a, you know, a software sales you know,
that's just a role.
It's a role. You know, it's a role that we as humans have created.
Yeah.
And so what I came to learn is that my purpose is to create or to illuminate joy. And that's it. You know? That's it,
that's it,
man.
That's it.
Just that tiny thing.
Yeah, no,
you know?
That's
to illuminate joy within myself, first and foremost.
Of course.
And then by illuminating my own joy and doing what unexplainably makes me joyous, I can help others to find their own joy, you know? And that's what life is all about, is finding what makes us happy. And uplifting consciousness. So,
oh man,
you know, like it was just a little thing, just you know, like just little. Oh, and something else, real fast. Something else that was really funny. During one of the nights, I kept talking to myself and this like Brooklyn accent, and I'm gonna sound so stupid.
So
right
funny.
now.
This shit happens to me too. Like,
but
it's so
like,
funny.
Hey man, like what's the big deal? Like why you do it? Like talking to myself like that during ayahuasca. I was like, what the fuck? Like why? And like the whole time, like just talking to myself in this like stupid voice. And because I can't do a Brooklyn accent. Not saying that people who have a Brooklyn accent have a stupid accent. My version of a Brooklyn accent is stupid. And I was like, what is the deal? Why am I talking to myself like this? And then ayahuasca tells me, you can never manipulate the voice of your soul. You can never manipulate the voice of your soul. Your mind thinks it's a wise guy.
So he's like, oh,
so he talks like a wise guy. And if you ever want to discern between the voice of your soul and the voice of your crazy ass mind, try to manipulate it. And if you can manipulate this voice into some
Holy
stupid
shit.
ass,
That's so good.
stupid ass wise guy voice, then it's not your soul talking.
That's the best. That's
Yeah.
got to be one of the best takeaways from ayahuasca I've ever seen or
Oh,
heard.
then she told me something about like a Jamaican grandma. She was like, and then one of your other voices will show up as a Jamaican grandmother. And I was like, okay, sure,
Whatever.
whatever you say. Like,
We'll
I
get there
don't,
when we get there, I guess.
well, I don't even know. I'm not even gonna try my Jamaican grandmother accent on right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, that's a fun one too.
It's a fun.
There
yeah.
are some fun little
because I was like
takeaways
cracking
you have
up.
there.
Like I was like, "You're funny, ayahuasca.
Yeah,
Like, this is really
sometimes.
funny." Sometimes, other times you're not so nice.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, here's what you need to hear. It's funny, yeah. It's a funny experience to be that deep
Yeah.
into that. I'm excited to do it again. It's been almost 2 years since
Yeah.
there was one in Peru in
Mm,
between, but
mhm.
having that true like this is
Yeah.
me and ayahuasca hanging out.
Yeah.
And don't they do some therapeutic stuff there as well? Huh?
Yeah. They do
Yeah.
transformational breath work.
Yeah, so I'll be doing that as well. So I'll be
Yeah.
podcasting with 4 people from there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice little media exchange. It'll be really
Yeah.
fun. So super stoked on that.
Yeah.
And super stoked to have had you on the show. This is such
Thank
a
you, it's
random
so
little connection.
fun. I
And shout out
know.
to Ali
Yeah.
Waddell,
Hi,
friend of the
Ali.
show,
Yeah.
for putting this all together for us.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? What are you up to? What's
Yeah,
going on in your world?
I love hosting retreats.
Yeah.
I'm hosting a retreat here in Austin, July 20th through the 22nd. It's coming up. I've got a few spots left. You can go to my website, megsylvester.com.
Okay.
Go to the retreats tab. There it is.
There it is.
I'm hosting another retreat in Costa Rica
Whoa.
for a week in November. Super excited about
Awesome.
that. Yeah. But my jam is working one-on-one with clients and taking them through this transformational journey of like uprooting and discovering and getting to that root cause.
Yeah.
You can
Discovering your
find
inner wise guy.
discovering your inner wise guy. Super fun. Yeah, so I play a whole lot on Instagram. You can find me there. I think I'm at Megan Sylvester, Megan with an
Yeah,
H.
and all this stuff will be in the
Yeah.
description, guys.
Yeah.
So
But yeah.
don't fret if you don't have it all memorized.
Yes, okay. Yeah, megsylvester.com. That's my website. You can find me there. Feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We'll have to do this again. This is
Fun.
good. I thought
Yes.
there's so many more things we can dive into.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That is our show. If you made it this far, if you make it to the very end of the show, you have a special place in my heart. And because you have a special place in my heart, I want you to listen to me. Listen to me right now. Listen to me talk about this thing. I did a thing, guys. I created the intention journal. 3 questions, 3 powerful and empowering questions created to help you see yourself more clearly and create an intention for each day, depending on where you're at, because life changes all the time, that can help you bring yourself back to center, bring yourself back to grounded, and create empowered action. Guys, you can get the intention journal at gettherealness.com. Click on the intention journal tab. And it's right there. Fulfillment is by Amazon. You'll get that thing in like 2 or 3 days. If you have Amazon, all your payment info is already in there. You just have to click buy. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. Intention journal on your doorstep. And if you do get the intention journal, go ahead and snap a photo of yourself with your morning coffee and a pen. Put it on your Instagram story and tag me. I'll hit you with a repost, give you a little shout out. I love seeing this. It's been something that just kind of started happening a couple weeks ago when we launched this thing, and it's always nice to be. I'm sitting here journaling in the morning, and then after I get done, check my Instagram, and then other people are journaling and sending me photos. It just warms my little heart. It warms my heart, guys. So get over to gettherealness.com. Get yourself an intention journal, and while you're at it, if you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes, that would be dope as well. If you love the show, it's a great way to show some support. That always makes me feel nice and fuzzy. I think the science behind this, the psychology behind this, is that I shouldn't ask you to do 2 things at once, but I feel like we have the best fucking fans of this show, so I'm okay asking you to do 2 things. One thing for you, getting the intention journal, it's kind of for me, but also for you. And then one thing that's just for me. It's just me being selfish. Like, give me some love on iTunes. Come on. Yeah, guys, shit. Oh yeah, if you're hanging around this long, you might want to know that we're on SoundCloud now. Officially, all the episodes on SoundCloud. Get your ass over there. Check it out. If you're a SoundCloud listener, if you're down to listening to some 3 hour long dubstep, maybe some sets from Burning Man or something, we're on there. You can just put me in between. Like, it could be the realness followed by some deep house, maybe some dead mouse. I don't know, whatever the fuck is on there, whatever people listen to, maybe some random rappers that you went to high school with. Who knows? But we're on SoundCloud, just in case you wanted to know. It's there. It's happening. We'll see y'all next time, everybody. Much love. Thank you so much for hanging out. Peace and biscuits. Bye.